The Obioras hired Juliet to help them with their children. At first, she called the children angels. She even prayed before cooking. But while the parents were at work chasing salary, she was at home cooking stew and pea. Yes, real life urine. The perfect house help turned into a full blown horror movie with headscarf and Bible. Don't blink. What she did will shock you to your core. The story will have you clutching your child tighter and side-eyeing your own house help by the end. The morning sun filtered through the windows of the Obiora's quiet home. It was a peaceful Saturday, and Mr. and Mrs. Obiora sat in the living room reviewing the CV of a new house help. Her name was Juliet Damre, a 25 years old quiet-looking girl who came highly recommended by one of Mrs. Obiora's co-workers at the bank. She's calm, respectful, and even leads morning devotion, the co-worker had said. She took care of my sister's twins and they never cried for once. That was all the assurance Mrs. Obiora needed. She and her husband were both full-time bankers with long, demanding hours. With two toddlers, Jam Jam, age 4, and Sophia, age 3, they needed someone reliable, mature, and most importantly, kind. Juliet arrived later that day. She looked modest, soft-spoken, and had a Bible in her handbag. Her voice was gentle, her smile was warm, and she kept calling the children my angels. I love children, ma. I was the one who raised my younger siblings back in the village, she said, adjusting her loose gown neatly. The children seemed to like her immediately. Jam Jam even gave her his toy dinosaur, which he rarely shared. Sophia hugged her leg and said, "You smell like auntie cake." Mrs. Obiora laughed. "I think we found our Mary Poppins," she whispered to her husband. From that day, Juliet began her duties. She was to prepare the children for school every morning, feed them, do little cleaning, cook the family meals, and go to the market when needed. For the first few days, everything went well. Juliet would wake up early, dress the children, and get them ready for the school bus. She would sing cheerful songs while cooking. She even taught them to recite their memory verses before breakfast. Mrs. Obiora would leave for work feeling satisfied. "God has answered my prayer," she told her husband one morning. But slowly, little things began to feel off. One evening, while passing the dirty laundry basket, Mrs. Obiora noticed that Sophia's uniform was damp and stained. When she asked what happened, Juliet said she had spilled juice. Meanwhile, Sophia actually peed on herself while Juliet was forcing her to eat her lunch from school that had already gone bad. Another day, Jam Jam's lip looked swollen and Juliet explained that he had fallen while jumping on the bed. "It happens with children, ma," she added with a small smile. The parents believed her. After all, toddlers were always getting into trouble. However, within 2 weeks, the children began falling sick frequently. Fever, stomach upset, vomiting. The family doctor blamed it on school infections or something they ate outside. Still, Mrs. Obiora felt uneasy. One evening, while brushing Sophia's hair, she asked, "Are you and Jam Jam okay? Do you like Auntie Juliet?" Sophia looked up shyly. "Yes, Mommy, but Auntie Juliet said if we talk too much, cockroach will enter our mouth in the night." Mrs. Obiora laughed softly. "Is that all she said?" Sophia just blinked and looked away. At night, as she narrated it to her husband, they both chuckled. "Children and their imagination," Mr. Obiora said. "That Juliet seems like a good girl. Let's not start getting paranoid." Still, Mrs. Obiora's mind didn't rest. The children's energy was low. They no longer sang Juliet's morning songs. Jam Jam started bedwetting again, and Sophia began to stammer. One night, Mr. Obiora found a pot of rice on the cooker, but it tasted oddly salty. When he asked Juliet, she smiled nervously and said, "Sir, I heard low sodium salt is better for blood pressure. I'm trying to help." He frowned but said nothing. Later, he whispered to his wife, "Is it just me, or is this girl starting to act funny?" Mrs. Obiora sighed. "Maybe, or maybe we are just being too cautious, but let's keep an eye on her." From the children's unusual behavior to the strange taste of food and Juliet's sweet but secretive attitude, something wasn't adding up. But for now, the Obioras chose peace. After all, Juliet still prayed loudly every morning and called them Daddy and Mommy like family. And so, the days continued until the truth began to quietly boil beneath the surface, waiting to spill. Another Monday morning after the Obioras left for work, the house was calm as usual. Juliet moved like a shadow, silent, efficient, and smiling at everything. She had mastered the art of pretending. When Mr. and Mrs. Obiora were around, she became Sister Juliet the Saint. She prayed over the food. She called the children my royal babies. She even wiped the remote control after using it. But the moment the front door shut behind the parents every morning by 6:05 a.m., Juliet would lock the main gate, stretch like a lizard sunbathing, and say, "Freedom! This house is now under new management." Jam Jam and Sophia, who once adored her, now walked carefully like rats tiptoeing around a sleeping cat. They never knew what would trigger her. "Why are your socks dirty?" Hot slap. "Tawai. Why did you blink 2 times instead of 1? Another slap. "Why is your toy looking at me like that?" Then a kick follows. The woman was operating on another level of wickedness. One morning, after the parents had left for work, Juliet entered the kitchen, brought out a small plastic container, and urinated into it like she had been doing. She looked at the stew on the stove, turned to the kids, and said, "Today's food will be special as always." Jam Jam stood there, blinking, confused. Sophia whispered, "She's doing it again." She poured the urine into the stew, stirred it gently, and hummed a gospel song as if she were cooking for a church conference. "Lord, let this food nourish their body and punish their parents for shouting at me yesterday," she said under her breath. After serving the children, she sat in the parlor and picked her teeth with a broomstick, watching cartoons like nothing happened. When Jam Jam refused to eat, she grabbed a spoon and force-fed him like a soldier feeding a prisoner of war. "Swallow it, or I'll make you eat my vomit, and none of you dare tell your daddy or mommy, or you will die," she said and hissed. Both children started falling sick more frequently, still vomiting, constant stomach aches, rashes. The family doctor was confused. "It may be something from school or the water," he suggested. Juliet stood behind him, nodding like an assistant pastor, holding her Bible and whispering, "Affliction shall not rise again." Meanwhile, when the children are away to school, Juliet would sneak into the locked storeroom to steal Milo chocolate drink, milk, dry fish, rice, garri, and even onions and give them to her boyfriend. She had somehow made a molded duplicate key of their bedroom and storeroom using wax and clay she stole from Sophia's art box. One Sunday morning, Mr. Obiora noticed that all the sausages in the deep freezer had disappeared, and the packs of meat had gone down as well. When he pointed it out, Juliet said, "I use them to make the children's food very often, sir," she muttered with a smile while mopping the floor. Not only that, Juliet would invite her boyfriend, Smalley, a grown man with yellow-dyed beards and one iPod always hanging like a Christmas ornament, to the house while the children were locked inside the bedroom after school. The boyfriend arrived wearing Mr. Obiora's old slippers, which he stole, and then he would ask, "Where is my baby girl, Juliet?" Juliet giggled and said, "You better enter quick before Jam Jam starts crying and ruins the mood." The two lovers climbed into the children's bed, watched movies and made out, while the children sat in the bedroom whispering stories to themselves to stay calm. Sophia, in a tiny voice, told her teddy bear, "When mommy comes back, tell her I was a good girl." At school, Jam Jam stopped talking much. Sophia began to suck her thumb again. The class teacher noticed their withdrawn behavior and mentioned it in the weekly report. Mrs. Obiora waved it off and said, "Maybe they are adjusting to school stress," she said to the teacher, but deep down, she felt that something was wrong. One day, while bathing Sophia, she noticed tiny bruises on her back. "Sophie, baby, who beat you?" Sophia looked around, lowered her voice and said, "Auntie Juliet said if I say anything, she will cook me like ogbono soup." "Did Auntie Juliet do this to you?" Sophia kept quiet. She didn't say anything further. That night, the Obioras lay in bed. Mrs. Obiora told her husband what Sophia said, and the husband replied, "We need to know what's going on in this house. I will search for contacts of people that install CCTV cameras and find the ones with good reviews." And just like that, the countdown to Juliet's disgrace began. Meanwhile, Juliet had now fully claimed the house like it was part of her inheritance when the Obieras were at work. Her new morning ritual included yawning loudly, slapping her thigh 3 times, and announcing to the sleeping children, "Wake up! Lazy children don't make heaven." Jam Jam would jump from the bed with fear, half asleep, while Sophia would cry, but one hush from Juliet would send the tears back from where they were coming from. Juliet had turned the house into her personal playground. Whenever the Obioras left for work, Juliet would lock all the gates, tie her wrapper up to her chest like a village wrestler, and shout, "Let me take over the kingdom." Sophia once asked for extra bread during breakfast. Juliet turned to her with eyes wide open and said, "Is your father Dangote? Eat what I gave you, or you chew air." She started making the kids sleep in the storeroom when they were back from school, saying they needed to learn humility from how Joseph slept on the prison floor in the Bible. The poor children lay there beside buckets and mops, curled up like tiny beans in a cold pot. Juliet sometimes told them stories like, "Once upon a time, a child that cried too much turned into a yam and was eaten by her mommy." The end. The children stopped crying altogether. One evening, Jam Jam whispered to Sophia, "Do you think we can tell mommy or daddy? Auntie Juliet will kill us and we will no longer see mommy and daddy." Sophia replied. Juliet also began using pepper as punishment, not by putting it in food, but by rubbing it on their lips if they spoke too loudly. "If you want to talk too much, let me help your mouth get sense," she would say. Sophia's lips were red for 3 days. When Mrs. Obiora noticed and asked, Juliet quickly said, "I don't know, ma. Maybe an ant or mosquito bit her mouth. Lagos mosquitoes are advanced." Mrs. Obiora gave her a stern look but kept her thoughts to herself. Meanwhile, Juliet's boyfriend, Smalley, continued visiting. Juliet had told the kids the opposite about her boyfriend. Uncle Smalley is my prayer partner, so I need you two to go to the bathroom so that you will not disturb our prayers. The lies were endless, and her wickedness were raised to power 10. She began washing her clothes with the children's liquid milk added to the rinsing water, saying it made her clothes smell like rich people's own. One afternoon, she opened the couple's room using her secret duplicate key and danced on their bed to a loud song playing in her earpiece. She would wear Madame's high heels, pose in front of the mirror and say, "Look at me now, Juliet the fly girl, assistant Madame of Lekki Phase 1. She would even use a syringe and suck out some of the Obiora's expensive perfumes and give them to her boyfriend. That same day, Sophia knocked on the door to ask for water. Juliet opened the door and fetched a cup of water, but instead of giving it to her to drink, she poured the water on the poor child's head and said, "Be filled in Jesus' name." But the last straw came when Sophia's left hand got burnt. Apparently, Juliet told her to hold the frying spoon like a big girl, then stepped away. The oil splashed and the child screamed. Juliet ran in, hissed and said, "That's what you get for being stubborn. Next time, fry your tongue." That night, Sophia couldn't stop crying. Mrs. Obiora was furious, and when she asked Juliet, Juliet put on her pretend to cry face and said, "I'm so sorry, ma. I was playing with her in the kitchen while frying, and she said she wanted to learn how to cook like me. I refused at first, but she kept crying, and I just allowed her to hold the frying spoon for a minute, and next thing, the oil splashed at that particular time. Please forgive me, ma. I will never allow her near the kitchen again." Mrs. Obiora looked at her skeptically. She asked Sophia if that was what happened, and the poor girl nodded. However, Mrs. Obiora still wasn't convinced. Something in her spirit whispered, "Install that camera today." She told her husband, and he quickly chatted up the guy he had been in talks with to install the camera the next day. Early the next morning, as they were leaving for work as usual, they told Juliet that someone was coming to work on the house internet connection and that she should allow the man have access to the house. Later in the morning, the CCTV camera technician came with his toolkit and installed the CCTV cameras in the living room, kitchen, children's room, hallway, and even above the storeroom door. He hid the cables behind the curtains, no blinking lights, and no sound. Juliet had no clue her reality show had officially begun. Then came the day of reckoning. Mr. Obiora sat stiffly on the couch, staring at the laptop like he was watching a horror movie. Beside him, his wife's mouth hung open in disbelief. The CCTV footage was playing silently, but it said more than 1,000 words. There was Juliet, dancing a zonto in the kitchen while urinating into a rubber plate that she poured into the pot of stew. There she was again, slapping Jam Jam with a plastic hanger, dragging Sophia by the ear and telling her to chew faster before the rice escapes. They watched as she entered their room with a key they never gave her, wore Madame's heels, stole their perfume, and kissed herself in the mirror. Then came the part where Juliet was rubbing the children's bread on the floor before serving it and said, "You people should eat some dust. It will boost your immune system." Then they saw her and her boyfriend make out in the children's room while the children were locked up in the bathroom. Mrs. Obiora couldn't watch anymore. She stood up and let out a loud cry, but her husband quickly covered her mouth. "I know your heart is broken, But please, hold yourself. We don't want to alert her so that she doesn't suspect anything and run away before we can arrest her. Please, hold yourself," he said. Mr. Obiora slowly took off his glasses and said in a hushed tone, "So this is what we have been calling a devoted girl. This girl is not just a witch. She is the head of powers and principalities." Mrs. Obiora, who was trying so hard to hold herself from killing Juliet with her bare hands, could only whimper. They didn't waste time. They called the estate chairman, forwarded the footage to the police, and agreed on one strategy. Don't let Juliet suspect anything. Just play along until backup arrives. That morning, as usual, Juliet strolled into the parlor, humming praise and worship songs with a mop and a mopping bucket. "Good morning, my beautiful family," she said, wiping pretend tears from her face. "I just finished praying for all of us again. I prayed earnestly for this beautiful family." Mrs. Obiora forced a smile. "Juliet, you have tried though. Come and sit. We want to surprise you." Juliet's eyes lit up. She sat quickly, already imagining a salary increase or maybe even a weekend at a spa. Mr. Obiora turned the TV on and clicked play on the footage. At first, Juliet looked confused. Then the footage showed her pouring urine into stew. Her smile vanished. Then it showed her beating Jam Jam while shouting, "Oya, cry in silence." Juliet blinked. Then it showed her dancing on their bed in Madame's wrapper, singing off-key and shouting, "Who born Madame? Na me be boss now." Juliet jumped up like a spring chicken and screamed, "It's not me, oh! It's my village people. They are using my face." Before they could say anything, she dropped to the floor and started rolling, screaming, "I told my mother not to let me come to Lagos. I am not a bad person. It's spiritual manipulation, oh." Mr. Obiora was stunned. What kind of Nollywood audition is this girl performing here? Juliet rolled toward the center table, banged her head lightly and shouted, "They said I should disgrace myself. I was warned. My dreams always show me eating with goats." Mrs. Obiora lost it. She reached for the mopping stick Juliet had wanted to use to mop the floor and aimed it at Juliet. "Juliet, you are lucky that the police officers are already here. If not, I would have ended your life with my bare hands. You will not even get the opportunity to eat with those goats you see in your dream. You will roll on the prison floor today." Just then, the estate chairman entered with 2 policemen. Juliet saw them and switched gears. She sat up and started begging, "Sir, please, I can change. I will never urinate in stew again. It was just small, just 1 pee." The female officer grabbed her by the arm. "You better stand up before I use my baton and reset this your nonsense head." As they dragged her out, Juliet shouted, "Please don't tell my church. I'm the assistant usher. Let them not suspend me." The estate security men watched from afar. One of them shook his head and said, "Hey, wonders shall never end. And this girl used to preach to me every Friday. Oh. I even sowed a seed into her hand, thinking she was sent by God." Back at the house, Mr. and Mrs. Obiora just held their children and cried. They didn't blame the children for not reporting what they had been going through, but they quickly did something about it. "My loves," Mrs. Obiora began, "if anyone ever does something to you and tells you not to tell your parents or else they will kill you, just nod and say, 'Yes, sir,' or 'Yes, ma.' But once you come home, tell your mommy or daddy what the person said. Please don't ever hide anything from mommy and daddy again. No one can kill you. But if you don't tell us, that is when they can harm you. Please, my babies, what did I say?" They repeated what she said to them, and they all hugged again, crying. The parents couldn't get over what they had watched on the CCTV camera. They had trusted Juliet with their home, their babies, and their peace of mind. But behind their backs, she had turned the house into a crime scene. Mrs. Obiora took her leave earlier than scheduled. She needed time to work on her children's physical and mental health. The house was quiet again, too quiet. For the first time in months, there was no shouting, no gospel songs being butchered at 6 a.m., and no surprise slaps landing on small children's heads before breakfast. Juliet was gone, arrested, embarrassed, and held in detention while trending on every blog in Lagos. Mr. Obiora refused to touch anything Juliet had cooked and stored in the freezer. He dumped all their food in the dustbin and announced, "From now on, if it's not cooked by my wife or my mother, I'm not eating." Mrs. Obiora rolled her eyes. "Don't carry your trauma to my kitchen, no. We are ordering food from that clean restaurant down the road. I'm too disorganized emotionally to cook anything now." After a few weeks, the children slowly started coming back to their life before Juliet. Jam Jam started laughing again. Sophia began humming cartoon songs instead of talking to her teddy bear in secret. But the Obioras were not taking chances. They called in a pastor to pray. Then they also invited a woman from the village who came to cleanse the house spiritually using a broom soaked in something that smelled like burnt onions and engine oil. People didn't stop visiting. One by one, they came to hear the gist and pretend to sympathize. Even the estate WhatsApp group had Juliet's CCTV clip going viral with the caption, "Beware of smiling house helps, especially ones that carry Bible." Mr. Obiora sent out a group message. "Please, all parents should consider installing cameras, even if it's just one in the kitchen. Don't say it's expensive. Your child's life is more valuable." Mrs. Obiora became extra alert. She asked the new nanny 14 interview questions, including, "Have you ever looked at a child and thought, I want to beat this one for no reason?" The new nanny looked confused and said, "No, ma." Later that day, Sophia whispered to her mommy and said, "Mommy, if this new auntie pours wee-wee in my food, can I tell you immediately?" Mrs. Obiora hugged her tightly. "Yes, my baby. Please don't hide anything from me. I will always listen." Jam Jam nodded like an elder and added, "Me too. I don't want stew of pee again." Life slowly returned to normal, but the Obioras would never forget. They had trusted, believed, and nearly lost their children to the quiet evil hiding behind Julia's soft voice and fake smiles. And so, they ended the experience with one lesson, which they shared on Facebook, on a video interview, and in their school parents group, and it read, "Please don't trust anyone blindly because they call your child sweetheart. Even Judas kissed Jesus. Watch your children, ask questions, notice their moods, and if your spirit feels something is off, investigate." The Obioras didn't just employ a new nanny, but they monitored the new nanny through the CCTV camera footages playing on their phones. They didn't want to take chances again. They are parents. It's true life is busy and help is sometimes needed, but always remember, evil doesn't wear a horn. Sometimes it wears an apron, smiles politely and says, "Don't worry, I love children." Be watchful, be prayerful, and if you feel something isn't right, act quickly, because the next Juliet may not give you a second chance. And yes, get a CCTV camera. It just might save you or your child's life. Thank you so much for watching the story. Please let me know what you think about the story in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. Don't forget to like this video if you found it interesting, and also share and subscribe if you haven't. Do well to click the notification bell beside the subscribe button to be notified each time I drop a new video. Until I come your way again soon, stay happy.